Hi everyone, I'm your host Maurice, and you are listening to the Lifetimes Podcast, the podcast where we will explore the different stories, life lessons, and experiences of Filipinos navigating through life and adulthood in a foreign society. Thank you so much for tuning in. We are actually in our 7th episode today, and it's been almost more than a month now since I started the show, and I can't thank everyone enough for continuing to listen to the show and also for subscribing to the show and following us on Instagram. So I invite everyone, if you haven't yet, please give us a follow on Instagram at the Lifetimes Podcast, and please make sure to subscribe to the podcast on whichever podcasting platform that you're using, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, so you won't miss the next episode of the show. And actually, I'm very excited to share this. My very first episode actually just broke 100 views, so I'm very excited for that because I've like starting the project. I was very unsure how things will go, and it's very heartwarming to see that there are you guys who continue to support the show just by listening to the show. So thank you so much, and I encourage you as well, if you enjoyed the shows, please do give it a share on social media, share it to your other friends so that we may gain more listeners to the show so that we can share these episodes to more people. And yeah, and for today's episode, just as last time, we have a guest for today, and it's not someone local. They're quite far, we're in different time zones right now, so it was very tricky in getting the time going and getting the schedule correct because I think right now at the time of this recording, it's around 2:40 there in from where they are. They're actually in Europe, and here in Vancouver, Canada, it's around 6:40 a.m. So we had to do some little coordinating to get us both in sync for the show. So I hope everyone enjoys the show. We have our guests from the UK, and today they will share to us the process that they had to go through in order to get to the UK, some of the experiences that they face, such as culture shock or some misconceptions about migrating to the United Kingdom. So please allow me to welcome our guests for today, Alren and Ivan.
Hello. Hi. My name's Al, and my name is Ivan. And we are Al and Ivan. That's it.
Hello, hello. Hello, Al, with the guitar there. So just to our listeners, Al is actually my cousin. He's my older cousin. And obviously, we've known each other since we were born. So I was actually just telling him earlier before we started, it kind of feels weird that I call him Al because I always call him Kuya Alren. So it's sounds a little bit weird, but we'll get through that today. Hey guys, how are you guys doing there?
We're all right. It's a bit hot here right now. Starting to shine at the moment. It's getting hotter, but in the morning and in the evening, it's really cold. So you need to put your jacket up.
Oh my goodness, I'm getting shy with my English. Oh, that's the first time I've heard the English accent. Ivan, that's very beautiful.
I'm just trying to pretend.
No, it's good. It's good. I've never... I hear it all the time in movies, but I've never really talked to someone with the English accent. So I'm very, like, starstruck. I don't know, is that the right word?
Yeah, he's really good at it. At first, actually, when I first heard the British accent, I'm gonna say a profane word. Well, anyway, it sounded nice to me, very nice to me. Yeah, especially when you started in here, it's really hard to cope up with their language because I think they're too nice when you talk to them. Like for example, if you offer like electric fan, when I first came in here, I always say, "Would you want some fan?" And the older people doesn't like that, so they always correct me. Ivan, don't say like that. You should say, "Would you like some?" Because they said want is a little bit aggressive than like. So So there's a little bit of twitching in terms of our English because it's too Americanized.
Yeah, I think the difficult part in getting used to the British language is that in the Philippines, we are taught American English. So the accent, the use of the languages, the use of words are all American. So when you go here, there are a lot of things that has different meaning.
Yeah.
Like for example, pants are actually underwear here, and you must call it trousers. So
Yeah. So my first patient, I'll share it. This is a true story. So I'm sorting my patient's clothes, and I asked her, because you call it love, could you kindly remove your pants? And unfortunately, that lady went all the way, like she totally removed her underwears. But I'm just talking to the pants, as in trousers. So they don't understand the
yeah, it's different for
it's
them.
different. Like for example, if you want to get a jug of water, you need to say jug instead of pitcher, because they won't understand pitcher,
And they will correct you.
and they will correct it. No, nobody will. What's that? Like when I first came into the wards, I asked for a pitcher of water, and nobody knows what is a
What's a
pitcher.
pitcher?
And I said, unfortunately, I saw someone who came from America, and oh, Ivan, don't say like that. You need to ask jug of water instead of pitcher of water, because they don't know.
And then there's
The
this,
picture.
the accent. If you say, would you like Filipino accent? Would you like some water, dear? They wouldn't understand it. But when you say, you like some water? They would say, yeah. They would easily understand it.
Yeah,
Like,
and yeah. So this, for example, if you want to go to the first floor, because in America that will be second floor. In here it's just first floor, because we call the first floor as ground floor. So
the second floor here
The
is
second
the first
floor would be first floor. Oh, isn't that confusing?
yeah, because they said it's ground floor.
And then
So
first floor.
if that makes sense. So it's really tricky. So when somebody will instruct you to go to first floor,
That means the second floor.
yeah, which is the second level of the building. So it's kind of confusing when you first started in here, but you'll get used to it.
Yeah, I get what they mean, but yeah, that's kind of confusing. The first floor is the second floor. That's because here you would, in the elevator, you would see G as the ground floor, but then the next floor up will be 2, which is second floor. That's quite strange. And you don't call it elevator, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
lift.
called lift.
Yeah,
So here in the lift, there's also a ground floor, but the first floor would be number 2 as well, right?
yeah. No, it's first.
Really?
Yeah, in the hospital, it's
Ah.
first. Try to check it.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure it's
So ground floor and then first floor. Okay.
So yeah, and
So the ninth floor is actually the 10th floor.
yeah. And yeah, I kept on telling them because apparently on the round, I think it's autumn, is it? They're moving times in here as well. Like we recently
How daylight savings time.
yeah. So when I asked them, what is it like? Why is it the main reason? They got a couple of answers, like because of the sun, because apparently there's a lot of accidents, and because of the farmers, and because of the war. That's why they're moving the time in here, like 1 hour backward and 1 hour forward. So we just recently moved the time in here, but
Is it the same in Canada? Do you have like daylight savings?
Yeah, we actually do. So spring, you spring forward, right? You put your clock 1 hour ahead, and the fall you put your clocks an hour backwards. It's actually there's been talks here that they would eliminate that because it's a little bit you have to adjust, and it feels weird because like in the fall you would get an extra hour of sleep, but in the spring you would lose 1 hour of sleep. And I know that's not really it's a minor thing, but then for some people it's people are used to their body clocks and all that, and it affects some people. And it's and for me this is kind of what do you call this, a first world problem, if you will, because I have a young dog. He's a puppy, and he has a schedule. He has a scheduled meal times, right? But then when you adjust the clocks, you have to adjust to his new eating times, or his meal times. So it's there's some adjustments for different things. So it's kind of, I know also not all countries implement the daylight savings time. So Al and Ivan, both of you are in healthcare. Is that correct?
Yes,
Yes.
that's right. We are nurses working for the NHS.
Yeah.
I think we can say that, right?
Yeah.
So basically, it's the government healthcare system here in the UK. It's called the NHS.
National Health Services, I think.
Natural Health Service. So both, how long have you guys been there in the UK?
I've been here for almost a year, 3 years now.
Me, I'm around. I've been here for 1 year 7 months. Yeah, 1 year 7 months.
So the UK is known for like a lot of things and a lot of historical sites, cultural things. And one thing that they're really known for is the royal family, right? And most recent news I heard from the UK was the death of Prince Philip. You guys being in the UK, were there any special events that took place in order to mourn the death of the prince? How did that? I'm just curious because for me, I only hear it in the news and I don't really see what's actually what's the climate there in the UK.
I think it's a very huge event here. Like it was aired on television. BBC News was covering it, and
it's been a week now since they.
It's like every little detail of it, like the funeral, the procession. There's news about it. So yeah, I think it's a really big thing here. A lot of British people are mourning for the loss of Prince Philip.
And when you go to the hospital, the UK flag is halfway through it. I think it's part of
half mast.
Half mast. So I think everyone is mourning about it because he's been with the Queen for, I think that is the longest relationship that in the whole world, because they've been together since the Queen is 13 years old, I think, if I'm not mistaken. I just read about it like 2 days ago, and people are really sad about the news. But they inspired me because they're still following the rules, the protocols. Like they're just limiting to 30 attendees, and Prince Harry, who came from the States, he's isolating for 10 days, which is they're not exempted to the rules, which is really nice, so that the people will follow.
Yeah, they're like showing the people a good example on how to social distance, how to maintain.
Even the Queen, as you can see, nobody is within the 2 meters. Because
2 meter distance.
I think either they're doing really well in terms of that, especially in this time of pandemic. They're really doing really well.
So with the royal family, are they still? What's the outlook of the general British public towards the? Because, like I said, here we just see them as who they are on the media or on the internet, but how is the outlook of the British public towards the royal family these days?
I think because I work in critical care, so most of our patients got their own tallies, so you can see even if they're really poorly that they're following it. I think it really means a lot to them because it's been for quite some time, since I think that is one of the building blocks of the UK, especially in terms of guiding them in the last decades for their decision. Because I think the Prime Minister is asking for a lot of advice from the Queen and from the Prince. So I think what's going on in the whole UK per se, there's a lot of influence from them as well.
I think there's been talks about who's gonna fill in his shoes, like who's gonna be, well, you can't really replace him, but who's gonna fill in what they've just lost.
But that makes sense. I think it's like he's really a public figure, and he's been to a lot of foundations. So it's not just they're really wealthy, but they're helping a lot in terms of charities, and they got a lot of
basically projects, right?
Projects, yeah.
Many Filipinos nowadays, they aspire to go abroad and, to seek greener pastures. Like here in Canada, I see a lot of Filipinos nowadays. Before, maybe 20 years ago, you don't really hear Canada as a destination for Filipinos looking to migrate. It's usually the US that you hear about. So there's been a lot of Filipinos here, and I'm assuming there's also quite a number of Filipinos now there too in the UK.
Just in our hospital or in our trust in this area, I think we're already more than 300 since 2017. So I think that is a lot in the whole hospital since 2017. Because apparently, I think even Prince Philip is telling us that I think NHS is now manned 50% Filipinos. So there's a I saw you call this a news in like 2 to 3 days ago. He's talking about us going to UK and manning the NHS.
Yeah, and there have been a lot of Filipinos here who's been receiving awards. Nurses who's been receiving awards from the government, like national awards.
Yeah, because they really appreciate the work of every Filipino in here, especially this kind of pandemic. So, which is I know it's really hard, but I think even if we got a lot of risk, because being a nation you're at risk of having severe symptoms of COVID, but they appreciate us more in that matter.
What percentage is that 300 in the hospital, like of all, just approximate of all the workers?
Maybe 30 to 40% of the whole workforce.
That's still a big chunk, 30-40%.
I think it's different from the different areas.
Yeah,
I think it's just that here in our area there's more Filipinos, but you can see in other areas there's a lot of Filipinos as well, but the others not so much. So
because one of our matrons, which is a senior matron in the NHS, she is the one who's started to recruit in the hospital. That's where a lot of Filipinos coming in. But when you talk to the one who's been here for 20 years, there's not a lot of Filipino who comes in because there's no one actively recruiting from our country. But since she's now on a higher position, she's the one who's triggering the need to get Filipino nurses. But initially, I should have said like there's a resistance, like because like English people, I think we're not used to work with Filipinos,
seeing Filipinos or Asians in the world.
But when they see us work, they kind of love us because apparently we're really hardworking. Yeah,
it's great to hear for more fellow Filipinos can work in UK as an option. So that's great to hear. So if any of our listeners, if you have family who are looking to, take their talents abroad, if you will, UK is a great destination. But moving to a different country, it's also obviously not easy. It may sound easy, but it's not. When my family and I moved here, I am actually unaware of all the struggles I had to face because I was only 9 years old. I didn't know the processes and all that. But for both of you, Al and Ivan, you've been in the UK for 3 years and 1.5 years. How was that process like in getting your applications going and getting all the paperwork done and actually making that move to the UK? How long did it take, and how was that? How was that like?
Well, I think the process is basically the same for both of us. Um, Mine took around a year when I started. I don't know
Yeah,
how
for
long.
me, it's really quick for me. I think 3 to 4 months
Mm.
because partly I know I'm in good terms with the one who recruited us, so I can follow it directly to her. So she helped me a lot. Yeah, and her name is Miss Jewel, and she is really, really nice to us. But I think at the moment we kind of struggle in terms of processing the paperwork in the Philippines because there's a lot of there's a lot of documents that you need to sort out. But I think because of the pandemic, you
Yeah,
cannot cross the borders from one place to
yeah.
another.
It's been more difficult to get the paperwork done. So the recruitment is actually slow at the minute.
Yeah.
So I think some of my friends who started the process, it's been 2 3 years and they still haven't uh, gotten
Yeah.
got in here because of the pandemic.
We're kind of lucky that we just came in here for
Before
before
it
this
happened.
happened.
So I think for me, Ivan was already here when I started my process. So he's the one who encouraged me to go through, go push it.
Yeah.
So I started.
There's a lot of backstory from
Yeah,
it.
there's
Do you
a lot
want
of backstory.
to?
No, let's
Let's
skip
go.
all that.
Let's go into the
Yeah,
backstory.
basically, it just before I had no idea or I have no plans to actually come here. But one day I just thought, why not? And then
No.
I spoke with Ivan, and then he said, go to this place, which is PALS. It's a review center for IELTS, the International English
Yes.
Test.
Yeah.
PAL's Philippine airline? Is that
Oh,
No, no.
PALS
It's
is called
Philippine Anglo language.
yeah, Philippine Anglo Language Solutions.
Yeah.
So it's like a school where you review the English language.
Yeah.
So they will train you how to do the IELTS test and the OET test. So IELTS is one of the requirements for getting here in the UK. So you need to score. So the scoring system is basically 1 to 10, 10 being the highest. So yeah, so that's one of
No,
that's one of
nine.
the requirements.
Nine is the higher.
Oh, nine is the highest. Sorry,
Nine.
that's
Yeah.
1 to 10. Nine is the highest.
It's really
So I started my process October 2018. Is that right? Yeah, I started my process October 2018. I reviewed for IELTS for 3 months, and then I took the test in January, and I passed the test. And from then, I just completed the rest of the paperwork, like certificate of employment. I forgot most of it, but they'll also require diploma, your scores from the board exam, nursing board exam in the Philippines, your nursing license, um, university grades, stuff like that, and then they'll start processing your visa. For me, I think it took almost a year because I wasn't really in a hurry. I wanted to sort things out first. I was still doing weddings, wedding photography and videography back then.
You also teach in Pulse, is it?
Yeah, and I think around May 2019, when I've already passed the test, a few months after I passed the test, I taught the English language as well in that same review center. So come October 2019, I
Oh, hold
was
on,
able to
sorry.
complete.
Sorry to cut you, Al. I'm just curious with the exam. Is that the English exam? Is that exam based on American English or British English?
Good
Yeah,
question.
I'll explain it to you. Partly, to be honest with you, I think the English test in the Philippines is a little bit of business. They're making a lot of money
Yeah.
from it because apparently, whatever like my cousin, she took her IELTS in the Philippines and she is 6.5, and when she came in here, she aced all of the exams. So I think, but it is a proper English test. Like
It's very technical.
it's very technical. It's not like the English that you are used to use.
Yeah, it's like even if you're already fluent in English, there are still these technical aspects of the exam that you have to pass. So yeah, the writing part is very technical, so it can be difficult to pass. But once you,
What is good about it is in UK. To be honest with you, my backstory to go in here is I didn't apply to go to UK. I was originally applying to Australia and to the United States because my brother is in the United States, and I just processed my purpose going to Australia. I'm halfway through it, but I got hired in the government hospital in the Philippines, so I kind of enjoy it. And one day, somebody just messaged me, "Would you like to go to UK?" So I thought it is a scam because I didn't apply for it. So what happened is I grabbed my friend. Oh, his name is J.E. So that if I'll get scammed, we'll get scammed together. So, so I just grabbed him, like, come on, let's try to do it. We both passed the initial exams, and I just carry on with it. Not I just told to myself I'm doing nothing, so why not? So the process is it's all for free. So if for the one who wants to go to UK, it's all for free. But you just need to pay for your English test. So about your first English test is either IELTS or OET. It's for free. You can reimburse it once you come in here. And the CBT, the agency will pay for it, and everything.
yeah. So basically, the NHS is actually funding overseas recruitment of nurses. So they will pay for most of the tests,
Yeah.
most of the processes.
I think all.
I think all, yeah.
Yeah.
They will pay for your visa. Well, at first you'll pay for, I think, just one test, right? So if you fail the test and you have to repeat it, you're gonna
It's
have
on
to
you. It's that's on you.
pay from your own pocket. But
Other than that,
once you're here, they're gonna reimburse just one test.
yeah.
So if it's good and well if you pass it right away. Like if you just one take, then that's good.
Yeah, but they pay, including the first 2 months. For us, it's first 2 months. But I heard in some of my friends, it's just 4 weeks of accommodation. So just to give you a head
Yeah.
start in here.
Yeah. So even if once you arrive here, they'll also fund for your lodging, your food
Yeah,
for the first few weeks.
That's like all for you. That's all for free. You don't have to pay that back.
yeah, you don't need to pay for
Yeah.
that. And some hospitals, like our hospital, you can take a loan, look for at least £1,000,
Yeah.
and you can pay it staggeredly for the rest of the year, just to give you a good heads up, especially you're still coping up with the language and how's the transport. But yeah, I think it's perfectly fine. When I started in here, I don't have any struggles, but it feels kind of weird to see a lot of white people. Because when I first, I think in the Philippines, you're used to see your own nationalities. There's no foreigners.
Yeah.
But in here, it's really diverse, and it's very welcoming. It's really hard to break that wall, but once you break that wall, they're really nice, and they're really they're really talkative, to be honest.
On my first day here, what I did was I went outside the house and I went to Tesco. It's like the convenience store. And I got homesick because everywhere I looked, there's white people. And then can't even use Filipino language. So I think the first few days is the most difficult when you're going to a new country, and you've spent all your life in the Philippines.
Yeah.
But once you get used to it, it's like normal now, isn't it?
So yeah, on your first few shifts, you only got 1 kilos of English. Now you're getting like 2 kilos or 3 kilos of English every day.
At first, I can only speak in English for 5 minutes straight. After that, nosebleed all over. But now you get used to it.
So for myself, I moved to Canada about when I was 9 years old. And I do agree with what you said. When you start seeing Caucasian people around, you're like, because you only see them. We only see them in movies, right? In the Philippines, we don't see, we see fellow Filipinos in the Philippines. So it's like a little kind of a shock moment when you start seeing all around you. It's like Caucasians, all around. It feels like a movie or something.
It's a different experience actually if you go to different countries.
It's a nice country, and I think it's a great location, especially in Europe. When you go to Europe pre-pandemic, I went to a lot of places. It's just 40 to the airfare is really cheap, so you can go to Turkey, you can go to Spain. It's just train away from Paris. So I think before this pandemic, I think UK is the best place. It's just a few hours away from Amsterdam. So I think it's the best place if you are single, you want to explore the world, because it's really expensive especially if you come from the other side of the world. And when you go in here, it's really fascinating to see the one that the one that you can see in the pictures like ages ago. Now you can see actual. You
can go to France by boat.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's really nice. Yeah, we rode like a ferry, but it's just like a big ferry, like 3 hours. It's kind of tricky because of the time slot of the ferry zones and the time zone. And in Canada, are you left driving or right driving?
Right driving.
Yeah, in here it's left. That's why it's really hard. That's why I'm telling to them, why is it you want to be different in the whole world? Like we're riding on the other side, like in the Philippines, and they're riding on the other side. And when you ask them what is their weight, they refer it as stones, not as kilograms or pounds.
Stones?
Yeah, stones. I think I'm trying to look. I think it's from the Asian measurements. Like they refer it as stones, but you can search it on it. It's from stones. Like for example, if you ask someone what is your weight, they will say 8-9 stones instead of kilograms or pounds. Yeah, it's kind of weird, but I think that's what I told them. Oh, you know what? You English people, you really like to be different, isn't it? Then they really laugh about me. You're really cheeky, Ivan.
Stone, like what's the unit of measure? How heavy is a stone then? Is that an actual unit of measure? A stone?
Yeah,
it is. We'll just Google it. One stone.
Yeah, one stone is equivalent to 6.35 kilograms. So it's not really exact, but I think
if you compute it,
it's 14 pounds. So
14 pounds
and 6.35. So that's why I'm making fun of it when I first came in here. And all of your food doesn't taste really nice. It's all bland, and they laugh about it. But to be honest with you, they're really fit people. Their lifestyle is really incomparable to Filipinos. And that's why their life expectancy is a little bit longer than ours. Our people died at 60 to 70. But in here, 70 is really young.
Yeah, it's young for them, 70.
So their retirement age in here is 68, whilst in the Philippines, 60. So they're telling me, I want to retire to the Philippines because the retirement age is 60. Yeah. And it's really nice. Once you break the wall, they will tell you a lot of things.
They'll open up to you,
and they will help you all throughout.
Yeah, what's their leisure activity? You said they're very fit. What do most British people like to do?
Most of them got a dog.
Yeah.
So if you got a dog in here, you are required to walk them like twice a day. So yeah, they I think the main reason is their food. They just eat small amounts. Like we Filipino, we eat a lot of rice, a lot of things, a lot of sweets, a lot of fat. Yeah, that's why I told them, you know what? I gained like 2 stones in here since I came in here. So they're really laughing about it.
How many kilograms?
That is like 10 kilos. And then that's why I just so that they can understand me. And I told them that because chocolates in here is really cheap. In the Philippines, it's really expensive, but I don't really like the price of the seafood in here. It's really expensive.
Seafood here is really
in the Philippines, it's just cheap. So it's one way or another. I think it's part of the economics that we are used to.
So yeah, from what I'm hearing now, obviously there's a lot of adjustments that you guys had to make because even at the start of our conversation, you were saying there were some things that were, just with the trousers and the pants. They, pants meant a different thing in the Philippines because we use American English as opposed to in British English. So what else did you guys notice with anything, I guess, anything that was normal that you did in the Philippines that was considered kind of not the norm in the UK?
Oh yeah, in the Philippines, when you walk in town, all of the people will have an eye contact on you. In here, they really don't fancy it. So when you go to town, they're just looking where they are. They're not
Just looking straight ahead.
straight ahead.
They won't like.
They won't
look
look.
at you.
They won't have like a personal connection.
Yeah.
In the Philippines, when you walk around, they say,
Yeah, it's like you'll have this staring contest with another person, and then whoever breaks contact, he's the weaker one. It's like that. But here, I'm trying to do eye contact, but they just wouldn't look.
Yeah.
Like they'll avoid. They'll look sideways. They'll look down. They'll look upwards. They'll try to avoid. I don't think it's consciously trying to avoid eye contact. It's
But I
just that
think
they're
it's
already
just-
used to it.
Yeah, I think they're not really. They're not like looking for people around who's on it, who's in town. They're just focused on
On
what
where they're going,
where they're going,
do.
what they're gonna do. So it's in the Philippines, because when you see a lot of people and when you see common faces, you try to say hi or something like that. In here, sometimes they go whatever they go straight wherever they will go.
But I think recently, because of the pandemic, because you need to observe like 2 meter distancing. So when you're when there's a person who's like on opposite directions and you're gonna meet on the sidewalk, they're gonna if you go to the side and give way for them, they'll say thank you. I think that's the most conversation or contact we've been having the past few months. But if you're in town and just all these people walking, they wouldn't do eye contact or they wouldn't talk to you. So I think generally they're just polite.
Yeah, they're really polite. Oh.
There are some racist people, but they're also polite.
Yeah.
Polite racist.
How could you tell us a bit more about?
Well, in terms of my colleagues, there are actually no racist in terms of my colleagues, but I think racism I've experienced with some patients. So when they need something, they would ask nicely, but they would be a bit sarcastic about it.
Yeah, because I think their humor is strong. Like it is something to do with their humor, is it? But for me, sometimes they're swearing like bloody hell. So some of the English people is really getting offended, and for me it sounds really nice in my ears. So they're really laughing about this.
Like this,
It's just like I just hear it in the movies, like bloody hell.
It's
And
like
then-
this social way of cursing, but for them
It's really
it doesn't sound nice or it's offending for them.
Yeah, but I also but what is good in this country is, even if you go, for example, I know a lot some incidents, not a lot, in the wards. They don't want like black or Asian carers. But what is good in the NHS is they promote diversity and equality. So what you can do is the manager will talk to that patient. You cannot do that one because they will reiterate to them that NHS is promoting social equality,
Diversity.
and then what will happen is it will be the same nurse. So
Who's
they
gonna
don't
be
have any
caring?
choice if they don't want to get their pills, which is really nice because you can feel the support, and you can feel you can feel that the English people are backing you up, because sometimes it's really hard, as you can see, because you're in a foreign country, and if the management will not support you, you'll be in a tricky position, is it? But in here, you can see the support, and you can see the people are really nice, and they won't allow they won't allow the untoward attitude towards you and towards
I mean, it's
the race.
if you think about it, it's still far from being paradise. But what I think is that the British people are actually doing something about it. So if there's racism or if they notice discrimination against Black ethnic minority groups, they make an effort to change it. Like, for example, during the first wave of the pandemic, they've noticed that most of the healthcare workers, or at least 50% of the healthcare workers who were infected with COVID, are from the Black ethnic minority Asian groups. And that's a bit of a problem because Black ethnic minority Asian are composed a small percentage of the actual whole workforce of the NHS. Because, yeah, basically,
If
this is
you
a white country, right?
Yeah, but if you include the back offices, so I
Yeah.
think,
But what they did is because of this research, and they found out about this, they made an effort
yeah,
to
to
find
bridge
out what's wrong,
to
why
bridge
is
the
this
gap.
happening, then bridge the gap.
So I think you
So
can see a lot of support in terms of the whole government. That you will feel that you will belong to this country, and you will feel outcasted. And recently they promote in the hospital. They call it cultural ambassador, and then in touch with universities. I'm not sure if it is Cambridge or Nottingham University, and they will teach you how to deal with this kind of instances if you got this kind of situations for you to prevent untoward actions.
I
But
think basically it's just how you de-escalate.
yeah, to de-escalate the situation, which is really nice because you can see the effort from the whole hospital, from the whole government that we're equal, you belong in here, and you're helping us out to get through this pandemic, which is nice, and I kind of like it.
Yeah, it's very great to hear because we hear lots of news around the world where some, fellow Filipinos are mistreated, and when these problems arise, maybe some employers kind of just sweep it under the rug, and just as if nothing happened. But obviously not the case with for you guys there in the UK with the NHS. I'm just curious. Can you give us an example of maybe how to de-escalate a situation? Let's say, a racist encounter, started you know, to arise, and how would you? I don't know what's a good example or something. Do you guys have?
Yeah, I think because I think it's kind of tricky. It really depends on where you are. Like it's really hard to de-escalate you if the management will not support you, because in here it's just a straightforward one. If somebody says that I only serve, I would like
I would like a white
a
care.
white carer,
And then
and the
if you say this to your manager, the manager will approach that person or that patient. And well, that's the protocol, isn't it?
yeah. So I think it will be really hard like if I'm not sure for other countries, but it will be really
Yeah,
hard.
I think it also
The
depends
national-
upon the ward how they deal with the certain patient because, well, in our ward, if this patient becomes like verbally abusive or verbally aggressive, then what we do is we don't let that person who's being abused verbally to go in there. So
Yeah.
it's also about protecting your colleagues
Yeah.
from patients who can be sometimes rude.
And in here, I think you can refuse the truth in here, if
Yeah,
you're the only one who's in there, and you got the right to refuse to give care.
yeah,
I'm not sure to other countries, but in here you got the right to refuse care, especially if that person is not really pleasant, or it's kind of rude to what he's doing. So I think it's really tricky. It's a very very hard situation when you are on that kind of thing, because especially if you will not have a support. I'm not sure. It depends on the country, I think. But in here, you all, I feel really safe, especially for me. I got asthma, so in this time of COVID, because I'm taking a lot of inhalers, we got a risk assessment in here. So on the first wave, I'm because I work in critical care. On the first wave, I'm handling COVID patients, but on the second wave, I'm not allowed to because I belong to the higher risk. So and I can feel that the whole unit is protecting me, and I'm not allowed to get in touch with COVID, if that makes sense. So it really depends really on where you are, but I kind of feel protected and safe in here in that matter.
Yeah. Higher management really plays a big role in ensuring, everyone is taken care of, right? In especially these times, I uh, like there's been a rise with the anti Asian hate, issues happening in mainly in the U.S. and also different parts of the world, and um, there's also some cases here in Canada as well, but a bulk of it is happening in the U.S. And is that any of that you guys seen around in the UK?
Yeah.
Well, it's actually, like I said, it's still far from paradise. So there are still instances where people experience discrimination. There's been articles where a Filipino nurse in London actually experienced bullying from his colleagues. So I think we're just lucky that we're in a ward or we're in a work environment that where our colleagues like protect us. They uphold the values of the NHS and they're really good at it.
Yeah, I think yeah, I also experienced that one when I was in the bus.
Yeah,
But I think it's the younger people who's doing that. Maybe because they saw in the news or they saw in the social media. But they will not do anything to you. Like they will just yeah.
Like I said, they can be rude, but they're still polite, or they can be racist, but they're still polite. Like they won't really confront you or try to hurt you.
Yeah, because people in here are not that confrontational.
Confrontational.
They're not that confrontational. So yeah, so people in here are generally quite nice, even if they don't like you. When you talk to them, they're still nice. So 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 it's really I'm not sure there's an advantage and disadvantage on that part, but you will feel that you are belonging here.
That's very very nice to hear that you're well taken care of in your workplace, and hopefully it's that continues to be like what Al said. It's far from paradise, but you only move up from there. That's what we hope for, and that's the best case scenario. You guys living there and abroad now. When I moved here, one of the misconceptions I had, I guess because of the media in the Philippines and all that stuff, I was like, I thought when we would move to Canada, there would be no crimes at all, or like we won't see homeless people around like that. It seemed like moving to Canada was like a whole paradise, and from what you said, Al, already, it's far from paradise. Did you have any misconceptions before coming to the UK, and I guess having to face that reality when you got there?
Well, before I went here, actually,
But I think the homeless people in here, the government is giving a lot of apparently they're giving houses to the homeless people really, especially when they go to the hospital.
If you become homeless, there's support. There's support. So there's social support. You have your social worker. You have someone help you rehab if you're an addict.
So I think the homeless in here is by choice, to be honest.
Or if not by choice, because I don't think it's really by choice. It might be because they have some mental health problems or other problems
that put them in that
situation where they can't cope with life in general, I guess. But yeah.
But what is good in here is when you see them, you can feel the support at least. Or like the homeless in this country is really different from the homeless in the Philippines.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
The difference: the homeless in our country is poor because they've got no work, they've got no opportunities at all. They have no access to education. generally, because some parts of the country are poor. That's why we also have poor people. But here, they still provide opportunities for work.
Yeah, you
Yeah, I
just
think
need to make
it's a mix of
social issues
social
and
issues.
personal issues as well. So I think it's you can see the gap or the difference in terms of living in a first world country and living in a third world country, which is you are poor not by choice. In here you can trust the process. You can apply for housing.
I mean,
It is
it is
decent.
easier. Technically, it's easier to get out of it. Well, I don't know. I'm a bit like,
Yeah, but for me, I think
it's difficult to explain.
because I got a couple of patients. That patient, because he's homeless, asked for a house. They cannot sell the house if they will move if they want to move on.
Yes,
But the house is for free.
yeah, the government will provide it for them,
So I think that
so they can
is.
pick up their lives in general.
But in the Philippines, if you are poor,
You just die.
you just
poor,
die
right?
without house. If that makes sense. In here,
There's no
if you are
government
poor, you
support.
can ask for a shelter. So I think there's a massive difference. And if you got a child in here, as long as you support your child, the education is free until uni. So I think that is one step as well. So I think in here you got a better chance to have a decent job. And to be honest with you, my salary, if you compare it to the one who's in Tesco in the grocery in the Philippines, there's a massive difference from the salary in terms of salary. In here, it's not too bad. When, especially so, it's really not it's nice, but you can see that there's because in the Philippines the difference of poor what is the medium about it and rich people, the gap is really
The wealth gap is
the wealth gap is really massive. In here, the wealth gap is not too bad. It's reachable. You can work hard on it. So I think the and as you can see, UK is a really wealthy country, but they're not on top of it. I think because UK is trying to distribute their wealth in the whole country, if that makes sense. That to a point that everyone is going up.
maybe the UK is just doing a little bit better in terms of distributing its wealth
Like because in the Philippines, you can see that
as compared to
the rich will
other
be
countries.
really rich and the poor will be really poor. In here, you can see that the one who's working in Tesco or the one who's they didn't finish their college, but they're doing really well. So, but in the Philippines, if you're not a college graduate, you will never go up. That makes sense. So I kind of like the system in terms of that, and especially the support of the government. But some of the people are kind of abusive. That's why they're spending a lot of money to some unnecessary expenditures from the government. But it is what it is. They got the budget and they can spend it.
Yeah, and that's giving back to the public, because technically what the money that the government has, it's the people's money, right? From the taxes that people had to pay and all that. So that's also the case here. There's massive support for the homeless people or the homeless uh, persons in the city. There's support for them, and actually there's mixed emotions in the public on how the support sometimes, because here in Vancouver the price of housing is really really bad. It's very expensive to afford a house, and one of the problems that we have is that the locals here, they end up not staying here at all because they can't afford to own a home. They eventually start leaving the city, and other other wealthy individuals who come to the city, they end up owning these beautiful homes, whereas the locals are being pushed away. So that's an issue that's ongoing in my city. And yeah, that's some of the things that they would say, because there's housing for the homeless population, but then there will be arguments where locals can't even stay in the country and can't even stay in the city because of the housing crisis. So
I think it's the same. If you talk about London and the major cities here, it's the same.
Yeah, when my cousin works in London, we're trying to check for like 200 to 300,000 pounds as a mortgage. She will just own 25% of the whole property. So on top of your mortgage, you need to pay a rent, which just doesn't make sense. So I think it's really expensive when you move into the main city of a first world country like Europe, New York, I can say. Like I bet the houses in there are really expensive. So sometimes I think it is what it is.
yeah, that's a good point, because one misconception that I often hear about from the media and like some of the news that I would read about, like the uh, the outlook of the fellow Filipinos in the Philippines looking at the other Filipinos working abroad is like we're super rich. Like we work at we live in a first world country. There's a lot of we're in, it's closer to paradise, if I could put it in those terms. It's put it into Al's terms there. It's if you compare the quality of life in the Philippines and from a third world country to a first world country, it's completely different, right? So like there's that misconception where fellow Filipinos back home think that we're super rich coming from a first world country, but that's really not the case, because the cost of living also in these countries are quite high.
Yeah. Yeah. Like when I first came here, I was surprised. Like if you compare the prices in the Philippines, a kilo of chicken, say chicken, would cost around £2 if you compare the price. But it's here, it's double or sometimes triple the price. But yeah, you just uh stop computing
Yeah.
the pH and the pounds price.
Yeah, you should be a frugal spender, just to be on top of your bills, or you just need to, because I think a lot of people were really what to go with that one? What's the right term? We're really pressured in terms of buying these things when somebody buy.
Mhm. I think
Yeah,
it's also part of our culture because growing up in a Filipino household or knowing all these Filipino families, there are these titas, aunties, uncles that would boast about their relatives, their sons and daughters that, oh, she's already in this country, she's already in Canada. It's like um, your your niece or nephew going to another country is a sort of success story for Filipinos. But once you arrive here, actually it's difficult because yeah, there's bills to pay, there's this high cost of living, and then there's this homesickness. You get to deal with all these emotions that you don't normally experience in the Philippines. So
yeah.
I think
I
that's it
think
for me.
I think that is some of the misconceptions conceptions when you were in the third world country or when you were working abroad.
Mm. I think it's the same actually because yeah, I've been talking to a lot of friends. When you return to your country, you're celebrated as some sort of hero. Everyone will ask for you to feed them or take them to some fancy restaurant, ask for pasalubongs. It's part of our culture. But yeah, I don't know. Can be both negative or positive.
Yeah. Oh, it really depends on how you will look into that
Yeah.
perspective.
Because yeah, if you go back, you definitely want to treat friends, right? It's part of our culture. We want to treat friends. We want to give something back
Yeah.
to people who helped us before. But it doesn't mean that we're already rich or we're having a high life or.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's because when we would convert the currency you have now, it's obviously much greater in in Filipino peso, but then when you're back here working at in the UK, or in my case Canada, it's you're still, the currency that you're using is the that currency in that country, and it's all the expenses is based on that currency, not based on Filipino peso. So you may have that illusion that you're rich when you go to the Philippines, right? Because you convert the money and it's a significantly larger amount. But if you go back to the country, it's truly not the case. I saw a photograph on I think on Instagram where it shows, like, here, let me just share it. So to our listeners, we are on Zoom at the moment, so we're able to see each other, but unfortunately you guys can only hear us. This the pubs in the UK versus churches in Poland versus McDonald's in America. This is obviously America, and this is the pubs in the UK. I just want to ask, is this accurate?
That's fairly accurate.
I think there's a lot of pubs here. Yeah, there's a lot of, like, English people really like to drink.
When I came here, I got all these places. I see all these houses with weird names on it, like the Hogsmeade, Frogs, and all these weird names, and it's actually pubs.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of pubs in there, especially when you go to Scotland or to different parts of the country.
I think there's a pub name for every animal and every part of the animal's body, like frog's hand, frog head, three monkeys, monkey tails, stuff like that.
But there is a lot of pub. Yeah, that's why there's a big joke that they will stop to get the vaccination card. So the one who are allowed to go to the pub is the one who got vaccinated. But I think that is not.
Before you go to the pub, you have to show your vaccination card. Oh, I'm vaccinated. I'm free to go to pubs.
But there's a massive joke from it. But they're not never drinker, to be honest. Like, they love to drink, but they're not really. They can be really drunk in a few drinks. Not in the Philippines, like, people will drunk until they can.
Yeah, you just drink until it's morning.
Yeah, here a lot of people were like really noisy or were passing out. I think, well, I'm not pretty sure.
Yeah, we're not really drunkards ourselves. So.
Yeah,
I'm just curious, because you mentioned already the English we use in the Philippines is British, American English, but in the UK is British English. I'm just curious, what does a lad or a bloke mean?
That means a boy, a guy. I've been called a young lad, young bloke, so that means young man or young guy.
How about bullocks?
Bullocks, actually, it's like if you translate it, it's like an expression that we say, like fuck, like that. Oh, bollocks, like
yeah.
Oh fuck, oh shit, parang
yeah, bollocks. No, bollocks. Bonkers. You know bonkers is?
Bonkers is like crazy.
Yeah, crazy. Yeah, bonkers.
He's going bonkers.
I'm not pretty sure, but they got a lot of terms like that you were really, really fascinated about. Like, I didn't realize that when they offered you, would you like a cup of tea? Would you like to go for a break? So that is like, because in here having a cup of tea means a lot.
Break
means like you can go for a cup of tea now, so you can go for your break now, because apparently their break in here is a cup of tea.
Yeah.
So like when you watch Harry Potter movies, you can see that. Oh, no, I do realize what they're saying now.
Yeah, what they mean about.
What they mean about. But ages ago, it's just, why are they saying like that? Like even in was it, who is that one? Mr. Bean, like
Mr. Bean.
Mr. English, English. Johnny English, is it? Yeah, there's a lot of it, which is really true.
Yeah, because when I watch Johnny English in the Philippines, I don't really get much of the humor. But after I've spent some time here, it feels different. You get different laugh out of it.
Yeah, especially when they ask Johnny English, "Would you like a cup of tea?" And it really amounts. It really means a lot to them. That one cup of tea.
And then if you say, "Would you like to spend?" I'd like, if a patient tells you, "I'd like to spend a penny," what do you think that means?
Spend a penny? Well, sounds like nothing because a penny's worth almost nothing.
Apparently, it means that they want to go for a wee. Because apparently during World War II, you tell the story.
Yeah, because I asked one of my patients, because my friend, she's a Chinese girl, and she told me, "Oh dear, I don't have the money. I'll bring some money tomorrow. No, I would like to spend a penny." And said that,
And she didn't understand it.
Darling, I don't have money in my pocket. I need to withdraw. But because the story behind that is, ages ago they will spend a penny just to go to the toilet. So the term is, I would like to spend a penny.
Meaning they like to go for a wee.
Meaning there's a lot of terms like high as a kite. Yeah,
Or
that's what.
Basically idioms, aren't they?
Yeah,
Crack the whip. So if there's a patient who's not really getting up, just lying on bed, doesn't want to get up, and he needs rehab, the therapists would say, crack the whip.
yeah.
So it means, it doesn't mean like you're going to whip the patient. Like, it sounds violent, but it just means to encourage them to get up more, mobilized.
I guess now I need to learn these terms and rewatch all the British films.
Yeah, it's really, and when you look into it, I think one of the Johnny English films, it says in there like, they conquered like 3/4 of the world, which is really true. I think they conquered like
At some point.
they conquered 3/4 of the world, which is, if you will think about it, they should have all of the wealth in the whole world, is it? But they evenly distributed to different countries. That's why they got a Commonwealth countries, is it? Like, if they're not that greedy, is it?
I think you've got a wrong sense of history, because the British monarchy, they got rich because of all these colonies.
Yeah, but
they didn't really distribute
in a sense,
these wealth to these countries, because some of their colonies, they remain poor.
But
like India, right?
No, but I think in a sense, Zambia, I'm not sure, but in a sense, they're not the wealthiest country in the whole world, if that, at the moment. I'm not sure why is it like that.
Well,
but
before, yeah.
But when you think about
one of the wealthiest countries before, because they've got all these colonies.
Yeah, but when you think about it, it's still, they're not that wealthy. I'm not sure.
But it's not because they distributed the wealth to these colonies. Because I'm not gonna talk about this. It's history, man.
Yeah, I'm not pretty sure, but I'm just thinking about it. That why is it they're not that wealthy, in a sense that they just hide it. I'm not pretty sure.
I think it's because the British monarchy is that one that's really wealthy.
Yeah,
like they've got. Imagine UK. You've got all these castles, right?
Mm-hmm.
They say, well, it's kind of government owned because we get to visit these places as tourist sites. But when you think about it, these are actually land holdings of the Queen.
Mm-hmm.
So she still owns the lands.
But I'm not pretty sure. I don't really.
So the wealth is actually belongs to the monarchy. So
yeah, could do.
So
but
it's, I won't say it's distributed, but well, yeah,
I'm not pretty sure.
There's a lot of debate, I would say, in those topics. Oh, curious, because I hear it when Ivan's speaking. He has the British accent. Do you just naturally pick that up, having to talk to?
I'm not pretty sure, but I'm really a talkative person.
Yeah.
So when I first came in here,
I think he just picked it up. He's really good at picking up the accents. I think it's now, because there are also a lot of British accents. He might be using the Suffolk accent. We're really proud of him.
Because to be honest, I didn't realize that one, because they always make fun of me. Like, look, when I ask someone to, or when I bump into one of my coworkers, I talk to them, and they're really bumping their elbows and say, look at him. He was like, they're really laughing at me, especially my partner. Yeah, they're really. Well, I'm not pretty sure.
Yeah, I think when we asked like Chester, right? He said, so Chester, which was yeah,
Chester.
Chester. He's also one of our friends. He grew up here basically. So when we asked him, he said that Ivan's actually accent is it's good. So it's quite
But
good at it.
when you hear like the English people, especially some of the consultants, they talk really fast, and you couldn't understand
Yeah,
them.
it's hard to understand.
And some of them they whisper really, really. What's the right term? Really,
Loudly?
No, they whisper really, really soft. You cannot barely hear them, but they understand each other. I don't know how can they do that. I think it's one of their tricks.
And then there's like some of my coworkers, like when they talk, all these consonant letters they disappear.
Yeah, like they told me like, Ivan, say computer, computer. They said, or water, water. No, Ivan, that's wrong. Do it again. It's kind of term. And when I first came in here, I served one of the patient, like, and she told me, "Oh, you are a star." So from day one, he is my favorite patient. And when I go to the next patient, they always say to you, "Oh, you are a star." So it's a common joke that you are a star.
Yeah. So I think if you did something good for a person, or if you do them a favor, they'll say
You are a
you're
star.
a star.
But it sounds really nice, you see, when you first came in here. But it is just common idiom for them. You can always get it. But I thought I'm a star. It's really nice. Yeah, they got a lot of idioms and they got a lot of words to say to you, which is like what I've said, which is really nice and which is really pleasing to your ears. That's why you will do more.
It's a nice incentive.
Yeah, nice incentives at least.
Yeah, then they'll give you these endearing
Terms.
terms like they'll call you darling. Oh, darling, do this for me. Oh, lovely.
Yeah.
Do this for me, love. So
Yeah.
at first when you hear it, like, oh, these people are sweet.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Oh, and when I first came in here, it kind of feel weird when you call them on their first name. Even if you are a doctor, even if you are a nurse,
Yeah,
you call them. Even you are the consultant, you can Rob. Could you kindly?
yeah. You just call them by their first name because like in the Philippines, we're used to calling doctor. Can you do this?
Or mom.
Sir,
There's always
ma'am,
like
sir, there's a
There's a
word for
hierarchy.
respect. Yeah, there's a hierarchy. But here, it's just names.
In here, like Rob, he's the consultant. He's the highest consultant, and you will just tell him, Rob,
Yeah.
could you kindly check this out for me? Or Ajita, she's the seizure manager. She will just say, Ajita, could you do this one for me? Oh yes. There's no
Yeah,
there's a-
you don't have to say doctor,
or doctor
IMC.
nurse. And I think it's really,
Call the
really
doctor.
weird, especially like for older Filipino, because you will call them by their first name, even if they're a manager, even if they're they're your boss.
So, before we wrap things up, I usually ask my guests three trivia questions, mainly for three trivia questions that I ask usually at the end of each show. The first one for both of you: what would be your all-time favorite OPM song?
Parokya and Edgar. Hang on, I'll try to have a look. Or 214.
214. Very-
Oh,
River-
214.
Yeah.
River Maya.
Me, it's hard, man. Yeah, I'd go maybe with UDD.
Oh, Updharma?
After, yeah.
UDD. Next question would be, what would be a movie or TV show recommendation that you would have? It doesn't have to be a Filipino show or Filipino movie. It could be anything.
Oh, I like the Sharks. Do you know the Sharks?
The Sharks. No, is that a TV
Yeah,
show?
I kind of like that thing. I think that is the
Oh, Shark
Shark
Tank?
Tank. Yeah,
Shark Tank.
Yeah, sorry.
Wrong title.
Wrong typographical error. Shark
Oh.
Tank.
Oh, ano ba? Where you like superhero tropes or superhero movies? The current one I'm watching is Invincible. So it's another take on the superhero genre. It's an animated series, and yeah, it's a bit darker, a bit bloody.
How about One Piece? You don't like One Piece?
Well, he said recommendation. Uh, I'd recommend Invincible for now. One Piece, man, that would take ages
For them to
to
sort
watch.
it out.
I tried watching, but it's just too much episodes.
I don't watch the
didn't
anime.
continue.
I did watch it
nowadays.
when I was in my uni ages ago.
Okay. Last question would be, being the podcast called the Lifetimes Podcast, if you're given a chance to travel to a different time period, what time period would that be? Whether you want to live in that time or you just want to be an observer of that time, what would that be? Could be any point in history, even the future if you want. Could be anything, and why?
There's a lot of interesting time period, so I have to think about it. Well, maybe if just to have a glimpse or just to observe, maybe sometime around Jurassic era, just see dinosaurs.
Or maybe I'll go back to be a king and I'll distribute all of the wealth.
Well, that could work. That could work.
We've come full circle with All right. Well, thank you so much for lending me this time and just sharing these experiences that you had. And I'm sure we'll do this again because I can tell you guys have a lot more to tell, and we just
Maybe you should come here.
Yeah, and visit us and let's do it live.
let's go. I would love that. I would love to do that. I hope everyone enjoyed that episode. I'm very thankful for our friends in the UK, Al and Ivan. And if you did like that episode, I encourage everyone to give it a share on social media, give it a like, give it a follow. Follow us on whichever podcasting platform that you're using. And please do share the show to your friends or anyone you know who may be interested in hearing about these stories, or right now from our guests. They're healthcare workers in the UK. Maybe you know someone who's looking into getting into healthcare in the UK. Share this episode with them so that that will give them some insight of what to expect in the UK. And if you haven't yet, I encourage everyone to give us a follow on our Instagram page at the Lifetimes Podcast. And I hope to see you in our next episode. Bye for now.